Hello, Donna here. In this video, I'm going to show you 5 things you can use for bookboard. Now, traditionally, bookboard comes like this. This is ideal for making book covers for your junk journals. This is used when you're making a book cover from scratch. Now, excuse this here, the dog chewed on the corner of my book cover. Now, this bookboard comes in really large sheets of 660 by 1020 millimeters. The GSM is 1400 GSM. That's about 1/8 of an inch thick. So where do you get bookboard from? In Australia, you can get this from art supplies. I picked up some from Riot Art. I've also seen it at Eckersley's Art and also at Officeworks. You might not get it at quite the 1400 GSM, but close enough's good enough. So that's your traditional bookboard. Now for my first substitute, my go-to is a cereal box. Now to pull them apart is pretty easy. You just find your seam at the side and put your finger in that seam and rip it. You're trying not to rip the front or the back of the box, this part or this part. Doesn't matter what you do to the sides. Once you've done that, all you have to do is cut off these scrappy side pieces. I very rarely buy cereal, especially the great big boxes, and they're the best to have. So just ask a friend to save them for you. Now, once you've got your cereal box, the sides you want to glue together are the printed sides. So you've ended up with a blank piece of cardboard. Sometimes the cardboard can be shiny. So to fix that, you just get a sanding block and just sand over that just lightly. Then we are going to glue these 2 pieces together. You can use PVA glue for this. You can use a cheap PVA glue that you can just pick up from the Coles or cheap $2 shop here in Australia, or you can use an acid-free PVA glue from, I got this one from Officeworks in Australia. It's quite thick, right? Now, I am not going to add water to this. Sometimes I've seen you comment that your paper or your cardstock wrinkles. If you add water to your PVA glue, it's going to wrinkle. So don't add water, just let it go on thick. Get my other piece of cereal box on the front, line it up and just press it down. Now what you do for this, if you've only going to make yourself a cover that you think that's strong enough, you just add these 2 layers. If you want to try and get it as heavy as the bookboard I just showed you, just keep on gluing layers and layers and layers together until you get it as thick as you want. Now a good tip is glue all your layers together before you cut out your book cover. You can hardly tell the difference. You would never know that was a cereal box before you glued it together. Now to make your scrapbook cardstock, this is 4 layers. I have not trimmed the edges yet, and this is scrapbook cardstock. This is also 4 layers. The difference between these 2 is this is just printed cardstock and this is glitter printed cardstock. I've got lots of glitter cardstock. I'm not going to make a junk journal out of this using this cardstock. It just doesn't appeal to me. So what I do is just get out a piece of the cardstock or several pieces, When you're cutting the glitter cardstock, if you find that it's slippery, which it is, the ruler will slip all over it, just turn it over. I cut it in half, so I've got two 6-inch strips of paper or cardstock. Then I'm going to do the same as I did on the cereal box. I'm going to cover one side in glue. Then I glue those two pieces together. Then I cut a second piece together. So that's glued together. You can either glue that to that and then glue that to that, or you can just keep on going and glue one layer to the next, to the next, to the next. You can glue 4, you can glue 6, you can glue 8. And really, I would only do that if you've got a cheap glue, because sometimes glue is not cheap. So you only want to use a cheap glue, but do not use a glue that's too water-based. You want something that's reasonably, not too thick, but thick enough that you can spread it and that won't warp your papers. And if you wanted to, you could also weigh this cardstock down underneath something heavy overnight. But that has given me 4 layers, and that's a fairly nice heavyweight cardstock. I'm going to use these old book pages here, and I'm going to glue 2 layers together to make this book cover. Now this turns out nice and stiff. If you want something not as stiff as this, just use a book page that isn't as heavy as this old one. Like, you can really feel the difference in these pages. This one's quite aged and a lot firmer in the paper. This one's quite thin and very papery. So to start off, we'll get a scrap bit of paper, and we need to get one signature out of this old book. So we get the whole signature out just by snipping at those threads there. I've already pulled the cover off this book, and I'm just going to release that signature there. What I need for this are the pages still intact. I need a left side and a right side, so I'm not going to rip the page out. So I need them to be like that, and glue those two together. So we'll start off by just gluing this piece here. I'm going to use this glue at this time round because it's not as thick as this one, and it'll be easier to spread onto this page. I'm going to use no water whatsoever. These old pages will wrinkle if you add water to them. I've got my brush in the water. I'm actually going to take the water off that brush and get rid of the excess water on my cloth. Now line up your top page to the bottom page as best as you can. Then I've only got to glue that page to this page. This one will be a little bit easier to do because you've already done one side. So just drop it down and over. Don't get any glue on your good sides. Now I'm going to leave that to dry. It could take 10 minutes. It could take an hour. As soon as it's dry, I'll be back. I'm just showing you now that I've done another page using the Mod Podge, and I'm going to show you how it compares to the PVA. Now really, there is not a lot of difference in how it finished up. Like, it's still firm, it's still cardboardy. The only difference that I can notice is the PVA is probably got a little bit more waves in it, but that's maybe because it took a little bit longer to dry. But I did not add any water. You do not need to add water to this. I cut the page down and sewed a single signature in, and I've got a sweet little vintage style booklet. To make a fabric cover can be easy. This one here is just so simple. It is really basic. I've got 3 signatures in this little notebook, and it is something that you can just chuck into your purse and just use it for your groceries or just to write phone numbers on. Do we even write phone numbers down these days? But you get what I mean. This fabric here I picked up from Spotlight in Australia. I use it a lot for junk journaling. It's a medium weight canvas. You can get it in a plain so that you can either print on it. So this is a rubber stamp that I've just used a black ink on, so you can print directly onto it, or you can use a stencil and you can use your distress inks. It doesn't matter what color you put on it, so you can make it your own. After I've made a junk journal, these are the pieces of paper that were offcut from the pages. So I've got 3 signatures sewn in side by side. I just fold it over like that, work out how wide the cover needs to be. It only needs to be just that tiny little bit bigger than the pages. Cut that off there. Then you work out how tall your pages need to be. They just need to be a weeny bit taller than your page. My pages actually go to there. So I've still got wiggle room. I can cut some of this off if I wanted to. I've still got room. I can stencil all the way over this cover if I want. So now I've got my crease line here. If I only wanted to sew 1 signature in here, all I got to do is take this over to my sewing machine, put a clamp on it, and stitch those pages in the center, right, straight down there. I don't go onto the cover, only on the pages, right? Then once I've finished that one, that's in there to stay. It's already sewn in. I want you to visualize this. Then you would get your second lot of signatures and you would leave a little gap there, just a tiny gap. You want it reasonably close, right? Then you would open up your pages, put another little clamp on it there like that, and then go over to your machine and stitch down the center there. Then that one would be sewn in. Then you would fold, let's pretend that's sewn in there. Then you would fold that one over there out of the way. Then you would get this page here at the back, bring it over a tiny little bit there, open up all your pages, take it to your machine and just sew down, put a little clamp on it if you need it, sew it down there, and you would have 3 signatures in. Start off with your middle one because it will help you then know where to place the front signature and the back signature. Deliberately fray it because I love this fabric for that. It does fray very easily, and then stamp it, colour it and glue that piece on, and you got yourself a beautiful little notebook. Doesn't matter what size you make this one in, it is super cute. Give this one a go. You'll love it. Making a cover using tissue paper is just beautiful. Tissue paper feels so good in your hand. You can use tissue paper on its own, or you can put some wadding inside it. This is just a quilting wadding. You can also use just a stiffening, right? So if you want a soft cover, you use the soft spongy wadding, and if you want a firm cover, you would use a stiffener and just put your tissue paper on the outside. So the first thing you need to do is, we're just going to make a small one here. So we'll just gather up some pieces. So you work out how you want your papers to show. We're just going to go straight through and use ones like this. So as they layer up, all of these printed pieces are going to start showing through. So first off, I'm going to lay out a few pieces and see which ones are going to work the best. You can put as many layers as you want. The objective is that the outside layer and the inside layer needs to be a full piece. Now also the outside layer, you need to be able to see the print, and the inside layer, you need to be able to see the print. All right, so you can see what I mean. Your print's facing up for the outside and your print's facing up for the inside, whichever way you choose to do it. If you have none of this wadding and you're not going to put any wadding inside your cover, it doesn't matter. You can just go over to your machine now and sew around the edge of your cover and randomly wherever you like without having to put the wadding in. So you can certainly do it this way. I'm just going to put a small piece of this wadding in just to make it nice and soft and cozy. Come to there, and it only needs to go to there. So I'm not going to do any more sewing than I really need to, so I don't cut off too much. So it just is a waste of your time if you sew too much of this paper for your cover. You could use it for something else, no problem. So I'm going to go to the middle somewhere and I'm going to place this in anywhere in the middle. And I'll pop this back down. Now already I can feel how nice that feels. And I don't particularly want to see too much of it, but I can feel that that is where it is. Turn it over and it's feeling pretty good. I can see a little bit too much of it there through the paper, so I want to cover that up. Now that's ready to sew. I can feel where it is, so I know I'm only going to start sewing around the edge of that cover. So I'm going to cut off the excess paper. Now I'm just going to go over to my machine and sew everywhere around here, and I'll be back and we can trim that up and make a cover. I'll just clamp it down just to hold those pieces in. Now I've sewn around the edge of the tissue paper and it feels so soft and spongy. I can either use that way or that way. Whatever way feels best and whatever way folds in half best. Because I've made the wadding the size I originally wanted my cover to be, it's ready to cut. So what I can do is I can tear it. I can tear it back to the wadding, or I can just cut it. So to get me going, I'm just going to cut it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this as my front, because I've got that little zigzag piece there. That's going to remind me this is the front of my cover, and this is going to be my back. And look at that, it says back. So how cool is that? So I'm going to tear it, and I'm going to tear it about just over 1/4 of an inch away from my stitches. And I'm going to take my time just so that I can get my hands in the right place so that it doesn't run off on me. It's hard for me to show you because I've got my fingers in the road, but I'm just holding down one side and tearing a little bit at a time. And I think that is going to be the way to go. So I'll just do that all the way around. The objective is not to expose the wadding. So what I'll have to do is I'll have to cover that with something. But just be aware of that if you tear it too close to your wadding, you're going to expose your wadding. You don't want to do that. I can fix that up just by putting that back over there, and I'll just top stitch again back over the top of that and tear that off. So you won't even know that I exposed that bit of wadding there. I can fix that. So there is our cool little cover made out of pattern tissue paper, and you can sew your pages straight in to the center. That's the good thing about this type of sewing and this type of creating, that you can always fix up these little hiccups. You'll like this cover. It's so cool. Now I've just got one more cover that is the easiest cover ever to make because it's already a cover and it's already made. And these are recycled book covers. So instead of just recycling the whole book cover with the spine like this one, you just cut the front and the back cover off, and look at this cardstock in here. This is proper bookboard that they've used in here. So you can then work out what size you want your book cover. If you want this size, you just put that on there, cut that down there, cut a front, a spine and a back, and this cardboard is perfect to make a book cover. So that's just a little bonus hint. Before you throw it out or give it away, take the cover off it. The cardboard in these are fabulous. I'm Donna. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.